Great to be here with you all and great to be here with Susie. Um, Harris, who's the community coordinator for PHN nationwide, but definitely we have a special interest in California and LA as she's a resident there, as probably most of you know. I am located in Brooklyn, New York, so a bit from afar, but I have to say I spent a great week in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago. Um, and I'm really happy to be here with you all and Susie, Cyril, and other Passive House California leadership to talk a little bit about the award ceremony. So I hope people have questions. I've got a few slides here to kind of flip through and give a sense of the occasion and the winning entries, perhaps, and what we did leading into it, coming out of it, what will happen, and perhaps we could have a discussion um, along the way. So let me share my screen. Hopefully that does it. We're okay. Um,
Yes, it's working. Thanks, Kat.
Great. So the award ceremony happened on November 4th, a couple of weeks ago, and it happened at the AIA Center for Community, AIA Los Angeles Center for Communities, um, and in Los Angeles. And it was a lovely evening, I have to say. I think a number of people who were there that evening are on the line in this meeting today. We had a nice full space. We had virtually all the winners in attendance. We had a number of jurors in attendance. We had a number of teams that had submitted and hadn't won, but were there in general support and to be part of the um, evening, which was wonderful. We can see Susie and Averill here greeting the guests with Jed nearby. Um, One of the key things that we did is as everybody got settled in was have a panel discussion. And I don't know if others had reactions to the panel discussion. I was really pleasantly surprised. From left to right, we had Stuart Mitchell, who is the founder of the Wildfire Mitigation Advisors Company. And he is an amazing resource. If you haven't met Stuart or heard from him, I'm hoping we'll have him on a PHM Presents to present nationwide in the context of Passive House Network and the community in the near future, talking about fire resilience and strategies around that. He really dove into the nut of the matter in a number of ways, which was exciting. Then next to the right was Robin Tung from the Building Decarbonization Coalition. That was excellent. And Bronwyn Berry to the right of her, who may need no introduction, a longtime Passive House architect from the Bay Area. So bringing that into the mix. And then on the far right is Aurora Barboza Flores, and she's a school teacher at Glendale High School. She lost her home in the fire in Altadena and is rebuilding with Passive House, and really has a powerful story to tell and has made her a real advocate, which we're so appreciative of. Again, great group of people from a bunch of different perspectives and folks from Altadena. Some lost their houses in the Palisades as well, and up and down California. There was a nice mix, and the coast for that matter. I know the young gentleman on the right here is from Seattle, whose father did this project. So let's see. So a nice mix. A quick note on the jury. We really took pride in the jury being from a range of backgrounds. These all just weren't Passive House nerds, although there's nothing wrong with Passive House nerds. We love that. but people coming from the design community, people coming from the communities, from Altadena and the Palisades, people coming from super technical passive house, and then not so technical passive house, from industry and from the professions. So it was not about necessarily the most technically perfect passive house. One of the key things that was realized pretty early on, and perhaps obvious, that Los Angeles and Southern California in general is quite easy to hit in terms of passive house metrics. So really, what are we doing with the design of the building? How are we optimizing and fulfilling the objectives? And there were a bunch of objectives. A really special part of the competition that kind of grew organically out of what we were doing was a workshop with students at Glendale High School. And it was Glendale because that's where Aurora Barboza Flores is a math teacher. And she really wanted to use the opportunity to bring the opportunity of knowing more about Passive House, about connecting students to the built environment, possible career paths, and ideas of resilient communities with this awards process. And we were really thrilled about it and happy to oblige. So Susie and I did a workshop at the school in September, in late September or early September. It was September 11th. Can't forget that date. Um, and uh, and then we had them meet later in October and actually judge a whole bunch of the submissions. Rob Ha was there in the room as well to help the students. And I was remote at that point from Brooklyn and talking them through it. And so they really got into it. Had a lot of fun with it. They were pretty passionate going back and forth. And as I mentioned in the awards ceremony, they actually needed to ultimately call in the principal, who was luckily nearby, to tell the principal what the situation was. And she worked with the students to be able to make the final call to pick a winner. So they really enjoyed it. A number of them came to the ceremony on November 4th and were there to celebrate the awards together. So that was a special aspect. So we'll kind of flip through here the winners so you just get a sense of it. I may say a couple of words about them. They're going to be hard to read probably on the screen a little bit. These are all available on our website. There's a blog post dedicated to just the winners, announcing the winners. We have another more recent blog post kind of describing the evening that has more images and whatnot. And of course, we're going to be coming out with a catalog following all this of not just the winners, but of all the submissions that hit a lot of the basic metrics of the competition requirements. So we're looking to make public the whole variety of projects. They're not yet up on our website, but will be in the coming days.
And the blog is there in the chat. If you want to follow along and poke around on those links for the winners, you can see that.
Great. Thank you, Susie. So we started with Spanish Colonial. We're just going to click through here with some pictures. And this was the one team that wasn't able to attend. They're from Seattle, but we can say, so this was the Manzanita House, and it was the Artisans Group, Architecture and Planning out of Seattle. And I think it was interesting how the jury went back and forth and really found this house as a kind of mix of modern feeling, yet bringing that Spanish colonial, having the inside outside kind of spaces, dealing with solar shading, prefabrication, a number of things that really brought it together and spoke to them. And I should say that the student jury didn't deliberate with the quote unquote adult professionals jury. They picked their own special prize, which we'll get to at the end. The first place winner was Casa del Consuelo, which was by Moss Architects and Building Type. So Moss Architects is a firm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Building Type is consultants in Brooklyn, New York. And we're really happy to have Emily Rice there to receive the award. Really lovely, plan working on this feeling of space and the historic nature of it, all of it coming together. In mid-century modern, in second place, runner-up, we had Greg Bishop Architecture Design, also from Seattle, with this kind of courtyard house using what is it? The tatami washitsu, Japanese washitsu geometry layouts to make organizational sense of it, using prefabricated panelized construction as well. I know the low walls are definitely spoken of, and a number of different aspects. It was one of the few that had a green roof, I believe, and did water collection into a cistern. In first place is the first Los Angeles architect winner here, Christian, which won for the indoor sanctuary outdoor connection. And he worked with Home Energy Services, Steve Mann, who I believe is also here on the line. So I think everybody, the jury comments that came out of this was the very compact design, smartly put together with indoor outdoor. Aging in place was another aspect of this. The potential ADU development with the design, with the garage space, the front courtyard, the swimming pool, all of this added to it. I should say, affordability is an aspect to the requirements, and there was some discussion in the jury about, this is very high level of finish, and what is this, with the solar shading and everything is lending itself to a certain price point. But I think the feeling was that all of this could be achieved at a range of price points depending on what you actually picked in terms of fitting it out, and that the ultimate architecture of it fit the bill. I don't know, Christian, if you want to say any words about this project, since it's yours. No, not right now.
No.
I can't.
No,
Okay,
I can answer a question later, but especially the indoor,
so we'll
outdoor,
go through it.
large, that's fine. Yeah. So.
Yeah, great. Craftsman was the next category. Second place was Future Craftsman by Mist Architects, Matt Innens, and who is from, where is he? He's from up the coast. Not exactly sure. Don't recall the exact location, but high performance envelope, compact form, pretty straightforward, and really digging into this, the potential of Craftsman providing that shading, providing architecture that lends itself to passive house performance. And then he carried it through the interiors with the design, kind of bringing it full circle. And then for first place was Recraftsman. Um, and this was by a team from three institutions. One was the University at Buffalo, Resilient Buildings Lab, Rochester Institute of Technology, Department of Architecture, and Wendell, a firm. So, and these three folks here representing, it's Laura, Nathaniel, and Chris. I'll leave it at that for the moment. Really lovely project. I think there was a lot of reaction to kind of the sort of simplicity of it, and again, developing the craftsman, but also, bringing modern or contemporary fire-resistant materials to it, metal roof. That's not going to be your standard craftsman sort of design element, and bringing these different aspects together. And then in contemporary category, so this was the fourth and final one. We did have a fifth category, ranch style. It was classic ranch homes, but nobody submitted in that category, which was really interesting. So in contemporary, we have the second place as Fab_01 by Feldman Architecture and Blend Projects. And they are they in the LA area or up the coast? I need to look it up. Maybe somebody could look it up, but
I
they're in
think
California.
San Francisco, or maybe if
San Francisco. They may be in the Bay Area. Yeah, it slips my mind. I didn't have it written down. But they were great. So three of them came. It was a big team. So it was actually three different entities, I believe, but they did credit to Feldman Architecture and Blend Projects. Really great project, prefabrication, simple spaces and massing, dealing with shading, all of these aspects, panelization for customization and adaptation. So let's see, what else do we say here? Modulated, vaulted, flexible system, conceptually allows for optional second story in the taller section and add more programs needed. So really nice project. And then in first place, we have Villavaga by Opal, coming from Maine. And, this was a lovely project. I think people liked the play of the massing, particularly kind of pushed the boundaries. It's like, okay, we're in Southern California. We can really do non-passive house sort of design moves and still hit it, which was interesting. This is perhaps not the most economical project, but it was felt with the integration of mass timber, natural materials, a sense that they were pushing it in a direction while keeping the project relatively modest, and I guess simple in a way that with really strong aesthetic development, that was the winning project there. So special recognition came to a project that it was a project that the jury really reacted to, and they were like, really sort of got into it, because on the face of it, it really broke pretty much, it didn't break all the rules, but on the face of it, you could say that. It wasn't one home, it was 4 homes. And probably a number of issues that we didn't even drill down to. But in balance, they were like, okay, this is actually really looking at the ideas of resilient community, affordability, adaptation, all of this in a really strong way. And so Christian, again, with Steve Mann, won the special mention. 4 neighbors, 1 lot. And really, really a neat project. So it wasn't a formal winner per se, but the jury was happy to give it a special mention. And then there was the Student Choice Award. And again, like I said, there is this really wonderful back and forth among the students. What happened was when you saw those pictures of them in the school, they each started with their own. There were 12 jurors. We had them look at 12 projects. They each started looking at one project each alone and analyzing it. And then we had them come together in small groups and have each student explain the project that was theirs to initially review, explain it to the other students in their small group, and then kind of debate each other and come away from that small group to a larger group with a pick among them, a first choice there, and then in the larger group to try to winnow it down of the few there to a final choice of the winner. And like we said, it went back and forth and weren't sure how it was going to turn out. And then finally, with the help of the principal, they picked. And it was the Manzanita house again. And really, really nice process. And it was pretty special to see this pop back up and see them pick very much in line. They weren't just looking at the projects that the other jury had looked at. A lot of the similar reactions to it, and thought it was very sort of fitting end to it, bringing it full circle. After the awards, we had a little happy hour, a little food, hung out. It was a lot of fun till they kicked us out, and made a lot of connections. I certainly met a bunch of new people, was able to meet people that I had only known online previously, and had a lovely evening. So that's kind of the awards ceremony in a nutshell. Everybody really, and I asked others to speak up perhaps, came out pretty jazzed, and feeling, Southern Passive House is not such a fish out of water, perhaps, in Southern California. And in terms of the imperatives around fire resilience in particular, and resilience in general, that there could be some momentum behind Passive House in the region. So we certainly hope to look to build on this, and again, come with the catalog, come with all the projects that were submitted, that meet these essential requirements, and keep it moving forward.